Hello, welcome. It is Monday, April 29th, and I am here as promised my name is Lina Owen, and I'm the face behind Bluebell Designs Bilingual Sewing Studio. And as promised, I am going to be working on the Blockheads 5 Group 2. So, as I showed on Saturday's live, um, I picked up my fabrics. I did change a little bit. So, I picked up two bundles. I picked up a very lovely Riley Blake Designs fat quarter with this like very like lake water theme, as you can see. And then the other brightly colored, it was more like bright pastels, a little bit more pastel, uh, and but with a very vintage um, vibe. And so, but I decided to make the group two with it with this fabric. So I have cut out block number one um, of group two. And this one, I'm so excited to piece it together with you because this one was designed by Cherry McConnell of A Quilting Life. I love watching her podcast and like all her tutorials in Chelsea and Billy, and it's just so fun. And I was just listening to their podcast this morning, and I didn't know that Chelsea is also going to be doing a blog. And so I'm excited to start. So I already pre-cut all of my fabrics. And so as you can see here, I'm gonna come closer. I'm gonna show you that you can print this out and it has the 12-inch and the 6-inch finish. You can pick whichever one you want to. And another thing that I just learned because I was watching Jerry McConnell's live with Chelsea and Billy, and they had Blocks 5 t-shirts. And so I'm gonna go online and go find me and get me the shirt, the t-shirt, because I think it would be just fun to be wearing the t-shirts while I'm doing the entire the Blockheads series. And so I guess that's going to be my outfit. And that way I don't have to think about it. And so I'll just wear the Blocks 5 until we finish it. So we'll see how far along we go. And so I have cut out, so I'm going to read them aloud. So what I did first is like what I really love is how they give you the block of how the block is gonna look. Then they give you the diagram with all the cutting instructions for each size of the block that you want to make. And then also it has the my swatches part, and it kind of lays out all of the fabrics that you're using so you can make it really scrappy and kind of use your block with like low volumes. But I did pick up a background, which is what I'm going to use for like all of the white that you see there, and so that's why I chose to pick up. And then as you can see, I kind of written down in the swatches part what I was going to do for each fabric. So I looked at the diagram and I said, okay, I'm going to do the background in this color. I'm going to do these fabrics in the backgrounds. And then these ones I'm going to do color. I didn't necessarily. So what I kind of did was like, I paid attention right here to, it seems like these were two the same colors, and so I pay attention where they fell in the diagram here. And so I kind of follow and say, okay, I'm going to cut those fabrics in the same, the different squares in the same colors so that I can replicate like that center, that gray, like medium gray that it shows there. And then the other one that's in the outside, kind of like a little bit darker. So I chose a different fabric for it as well. And then when you see the half square triangles right there, it's like a super light gray. I don't know if you can really see it there. It doesn't really show. Plus, I am printing black and white, which doesn't help. But I do not have a color printed, so this is what I get. And so I just kind of put color. And so if you look in the G and the I said same colors. So that's where I'm saying I'm gonna cut those measurements of those squares on the same with the same fabrics, and the other ones I can pick other fabrics. So I ended up using just three color fabrics. So I use this one that's just very pretty, and then I use this one. As I said, it has kind of like a very sea theme to it. And then I use the pluses that just kind of match those anchors. And then as you can see, I cut this one and this the same. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. So I'm gonna now, and they have it all very nicely laid out, but just do your homework, make sure that you're cutting, take your time. And so that's what I did with this. Please let me know and put comments on when I was cutting my background, which is this fabric, is a Michael Miller's fabrics. I think it's called Fairy Dust. I just think it is like this white, kind of has like a shimmer to them. And it has like this, and the shimmer kind of gives it this like kind of grayish, but it has a blue light tint to it, which I think is going to bring out all of the different blues and kind of like the gray hues of kind of like those browns that are in the fabric. So that's what I picked at. I think it just is going to look really nice. And so I'm just going to make it very scrappy. I'm just like picking a fabric and say, okay, this one I'm just going to do. All of the fabrics work with each other, so I don't have to worry about that. So we're going to now work on the piecing instructions of this block, block number 1 of Cherry Macano of A Quilting Life, and says on the wrong side of each B square. And now we're going to see which B squares are 3-inch squares. So these are my 3 inches. And so my B is the color one. So these are my B's. So I'm going to put all my B's and that, and I didn't mark that I cut it. And so that kind of made me a little nervous thinking that I didn't cut it, but I did. And so now I'm going to use a fabric. And for the B's, if you didn't notice, it says that you're going to need, I'm going to lay it up again, read it just to make sure we're all on the same. It says that our B is 4 3-inches. I am making, once again, the 12-inch block. So with a ruler, I'm just going to get the ruler, and I'm just going to mark the diagonal line from corner to corner on all of my 4 squares. I am excited to see how these quilt is going. I mean, because I'm making the group 2, it's gonna take a little while. But that's okay. I'm just excited to make it and see which setting I'm going to actually work on. All right, that's that. And then place B and C squares right sides together. And so, and the C's are a background, and the C's are also a 3-inch. Just making sure because we have a 3 1/8 of an inch, so they are very close. So I'm just placing, and I am going to, I got brand new pins right here, and so I want to get those like the flathead pins. I'm going to invest in those. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pin on both sides like so. So you can see, because I'm going to sew, I'm going to show this so you can see it clearly. You can see the green line right there. And I am putting the pins like really far away from it so that I can sew. And I have my 1/4 inch, but it says that we have to sew with a scant. So we gotta really be cautious of that. So we're gonna just kind of sew a little bit less than a 1/4 inch. And I'm just doing all this process. We got 2. And now I'm gonna do the 3rd one. There, right there. And then now we got the 4th one in there. And I don't like using pins because they pinch me so much, but I just noticed that it really makes a difference when you're trying to get accurate results. So we're going to sew a scant, which means it's going to be very kind of like, I'm going to go a little bit less than a true 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to sew this. It says that you got to sew both sides of it. You could also chain piece them, but because I'm doing both sides right away, that's the reason why I'm cutting them. But you can chain piece that, and it'll make it go much faster. There we go. And I'm just making sure I'm going I scanned. one more. If you don't have your 1/4 foot, you can use diagonal seam tape. I see that a lot of people use that. All right, so now I'm going to be removing my pins. And now we are going to cut those on that line that we drew. So now I'm cutting that on the line that we drew so that we get two, because we're making half square triangles. So this makes 2, 4, 6, 8 half square triangles. Now just cutting that. And then we're gonna press those. And then we're going to trim to a 2.5 square. So I have my iron right here. And I am going to press open just because that has been way more successful for me. If you have a trimmer, like the block lock, and you're gonna need to press to the background just because so that way that the ruler kind of like stays or latches to the fabric and you have an accurate cut. But because I am not using neither of them a black lock, I don't have a black lock, nor I have a clearly perfect trimmer. I think that's how it's called. Yes. For a clearly perfect trimmer, you trim before you press, which would be perfect for me. So that way I can just trim and then press. And that's what we're doing. I'm just pressing. I like to press open because lately that has been giving me the best results on my blocks. So I can install that from Kimberly Jolly. But you know what? Whatever works for you, you do what works for your brain. And this is what has been working for me. Before, I never really had like my blocks lay so flat and so nicely. So that's why I kind of like keeping up with that. I am just here I got 2 more to press. And again, I'm just following the directions. They have marvelous directions. This is kind of gives you a little bit of a visual. Plus, it gives me accountability to actually finish it. So much going on in the world, or in my world, that it's kind of hard to finish things or stay on track, and sewing with you guys just helps me keep myself accountable and create all the projects that I want to. So now with all these 8, I'm just 1, 2 here, and so now we're going to, as you can see them, I press them open. And so I am going to grab my square ruler. I forgot. And I am going to trim to 2.5. And then, hold on, let me see how I can use that 45-degree angle. 1, 2.5. And I'm just checking here. So 2. I am lining up with my 45-degree angle just to make sure I have everything. And I'm just trimming away. Mhm. 2.5. Now I'm going to trim this side. Perfect. And I want to make this go a little faster, so I'm going to use my bigger ruler. I do have a bigger ruler, a smaller ruler, but I didn't bring it. I have it home, but we're going to just, because in this way, we are measuring, I can cut both sides. And we're just cutting right here. And that's all we're doing. We're just cutting, moving this out of the way. And I'm cutting a 2.5. So with this one, I'm gonna show here, I'm just lining this 45-degree angle, and I'm just lining up and making sure I have a 2.5, and just trimming. Turning. and I can trim both sides. And it goes a little faster than with the other ruler. We are on number 4 now. 4 more to go. Just take your time. It's okay. I'm just lining up and making sure I just trim. There's very little that needs to be trimmed, as you can see. But it just makes a big difference once we trim. Make sure that I close it, otherwise I don't want to get caught. Lining the squares. The trimming rulers are not necessary, but do make your life a bit easier. I just have a big clunky one, but that's okay. I am using a rotary cutter that I'm not very used to, and can make sure that I close it. There we go. I will get the hang of it. Very good. And we just one more. And okay. And one more here. 2.5. Very good. Okay, so that we're done with that step. So now we have that, and then it tells us that now we have to join these half square triangles that we made with the fabric A, which I got a fabric A is the 2.5 squares. What did I do? How many 2.5 squares did I? 8. What did I do? Did I just mess it all up? Okay, I'm gonna use 4. I think that's it. Yeah, these are my, okay. So now we're gonna put one of the backgrounds. I'm gonna see if you can see. I'm gonna bring my camera a little closer so you can see a little more what I'm doing. There we go. Even if you cut my face, it's fine. So then we have one, and then I gotta remember B is the color and C is the background. B is the color, C is the background. So it's gonna go like that, and then it's gonna go a background, and then it's gonna go, and so it's gonna look like that. And so then we're gonna sew all of these, and we're gonna make 4. So I'm just placing everything, and we got 2, and now we have 1 background, and that one goes like so, and we just place everything. There we go. And so now I'm just going to sew them together with 1/4 of an inch. And in this step, we are chain piecing because it makes everything much faster. And just take your time, make sure you're sewing as you're supposed to. You're keeping everything tight. If you need to use pins, feel free. These pieces are a little bit small, so I'm okay with that. But again, as you feel the most comfortable, do what feels best for you. And we're sewing the last one in here. Very good. And so now I'm gonna keep them on 2, 2 and 2 because I know that that's how. All right, and so then now we're going to press. We're gonna press open our blocks. Because as I mentioned, that's what's been working for me. And if you need to spray them or if you use steam on your iron, do that. Steam them so they can stay nice and flat. That's what we're looking for. And now, once I'm gonna show them how they're looking. And that's how they're supposed to go. Now we have to sew them together. And now, because we are looking at really matching those right there. We're going to pin just to make sure those centers stay nice and even. And so we get those matching centers. So I'm just going to press. I open them first with my fingers and then move the iron on them. Oh, I see that my iron is blocking the blocks. I'm gonna bring this a little closer. I'm just pressing. And then I'm doing the same. I'm just matching this very nice and closely. Oh. Making sure that they're right sides together. I was gonna do them the opposite way. Oh, not bueno. But now I'm going to pin there so that they don't move while I'm sewing. And as you notice, I kind of put them a little bit down below so they don't get in my way while I'm sewing. So I always open the seam with my fingers. And then I'll take the iron and press there. You don't think they're not laying as good, just put a little bit of water or best press. And just gonna let that weight go. And they get nice and also very hot. Don't burn yourself. And make sure that you're joining them right sides together. And pinning right there. Very good. And then one more. And then we will move to the other units. And this is a slow process, so don't rush it. Take your time. And we're pressing and Moda Sew right sides together. And I'm pinning so they don't move. And then I'm gonna chain piece all of these together. I'm following my 1/4 inch foot. I have a 1/4 inch foot right there, so to help me with accuracy. And I'm just making sure that all my blocks stay right there. One more. And then we have our 4 units. that the block calls for. I'm removing my pins. And this is how the unit is gonna look like. And we have made 4 as the block calls for. Then I'm gonna quickly just press them and press that open because I chain piece, so I just gotta cut that thread that was not letting my seam separate. And I do have to just press it there. If it doesn't quite there, it's they didn't join perfectly, it's okay. I see that mine moved a bit, but I'm not going to worry about it. It looks pretty good on the far. So yeah, that one, it is pretty perfect. If it bugs you when they're not 100% on point, just you can unpick and sew again. So like, look, this one came out pretty good. And the ones that didn't, like this one, if it bugs you, unpick and resew. But if it doesn't, just press it and move on to the next step, which that's what we're going to do. Yeah, in order to keep them nice and flat, we do have to use a little bit of water or best press. So let's set those 4 aside. Then now it says, on the wrong side of each square E, and now we're gonna see what square E is. Which is 3 1/8. And E is a background. So we're going to draw a line from corner to corner. So once again, from the background, this is the background, that's my color, my fabric E. I am going to just draw a line corner to corner, like it says, in all of my squares, which are 4. So that's what I'm doing. As you can see right there. There we go. And one more. Perfect. And then with right sides together, align 2 square seams in opposite corners of the square D as shown. Okay, so our square D is 5.5 inches. Right here. And so I'm sewing it in opposite corners. I'm placing one right here, as you can see. And then I am going to press, I'm going to place pins so that they don't move. then we're placing the other one on the other corner. And I'm also pinning. So now it's gonna look like this. And then now on that line that we drew, we're gonna sew 1/4, a skein 1/4 inch on each side. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Oops. It unthreaded for me. All right. All right, now I'm just going to sew at a scant 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. I'm gonna turn it around and sew a 1 scant 1/4. Okay, and I'm gonna cut, and I'm gonna show you that I sew at 1/4 scant inch seam allowance. And then the diagram tells us that we gotta cut that in that line, but I'm going to remove my pins. And this is to make, I believe it's 4 at a time, have square flying keys. This is the method to do a 4 at a time. And so now what it says is that we have to press both of them. So I'm just going to press them open. And we have our first, then we're gonna press open our second. I am excited. This is going to turn so cute. These blocks are just very pretty. And Terry is a really, really nice, very talented designer of patterns. That's who I wish to become, many of them. They're just so talented. So. All right, that one turned out better. And so now the way that we have it, it looks like a little heart. And so now they said that we have to place the other square right in the bottom so that it kind of goes in between. I'm going to show it once. I'm just going to just line it up nicely. I'm going to pin, and once I pin, I'm going to show you so that you know exactly what I mean. And then we're going to sew once again a scant 1/4 of an inch seam allowance on those two. So yours is supposed to look right like that. So with the fabric right sides together, you just kind of line it up. Your big square is your guide, and that should line them up nicely. So I'm just doing that. Doing that. Very good. Like so. And then now we're just gonna sew a 1/4 a scant, 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Did not place the span far enough. Oh yeah, I did. And if you want to, you can change these things around. And that's another way of doing. You just cut it, and then that way you waste less fabric. Less thread. Time I'm not sure about. I think you do. It's just it's the most efficient way. And then now I can do it this way. No, I have to do it this way. Because I did not mark both ways. Oops. Oopsie daisy, would my daughter say. Very good. Now I'm going to show you how this looks. So you kind of get an idea. Like so, right there. And then now we're just going to cut that. And then we press that. And then we get our 4 flying unit keys. Flying geese units. Oh my God. Then we just cut. And then we make 4. And this is how they look. So we're just gonna press that open. And they're cute. And I think we're gonna have to repeat this with one of the backgrounds. I consider myself kind of a very slow sewer, but it's okay. We kind of all have our own method. And then we will trim if needed to make sure that we have a 2.5 by 4.5. That's the measurement that you're gonna need for the 12-inch block. If you're making the 6-inch block, they tell you exactly what you need. They also sell these very handy dandy flying geese trimmers. I guess I'm still in child raising. And can afford like all of the different rulers, so I try to get by with just the very minimum. But it will be nice, right? And so now I said that I need a 2.5, which this is a 2.5. So now a 2.5. And just making sure I just have a 1/4 of an inch on this one. And this is a 2. Okay, so I think this is good. I'm gonna do the other one. We do have to trim a little bit to make sure those units are 2.5 by 4.5. And this one does have, oh, my handy dandy. So I'm just going to make sure that's good. That looks pretty good. Okay, and then I'm gonna trim. And then I'm just going to trim 2.5, one full. That is perfect. And then it's a 2.5, and then it's a 2.25. 1, 2.25. So and 2.25. So I'm gonna have to say 2.25. I'm just gonna measure everywhere so you have. And then do the same here. 2.25. All right. And then I measure that. It takes a little bit to do it, but just make sure that you're just kind of doing all of your centers. So I'm going to just make sure I grab this. And this is nice and center. And I'm going to trim here. And then I'm gonna do 2.5. Very good. And then this is 2.25. And that's why we're trimming. We're just trimming our half square triangles to make sure that we keep 1/4 inch right here. That's where we want to make sure that when we sew the blocks together, we don't lose that point. And then 4.5 on the sides, and make sure that we just trim equally on all of the sides. So take your time and just kind of figure it out and make what makes sense in your brain. And that's kind of what I did. It took me a little bit to just kind of get it going, but now I figured it out. And once you figure it out, I first trim, making sure that I have my 1/4 inch, making sure that I keep my 1/4 inch right here. And then I'll trim the sides where it's 2.25 because it has to measure 4.5. So I make sure that I'm keeping all my centers. And I said 2.25. And then 2.25. Make sure everything is nice and aligned. And then I get a perfect flying geese. And just doing that. Make sure everything is nice. So now I do 2.5. And trim the top. 2.25. And I'm measuring the 2.25, and what's serving me is that middle point where they meet. That's where I'm trimming. And I'm just lining it all up. And that's where I have all my 4 flying keys. And then I'm gonna do that with the F and G squares. So I'm going to measure and draw that line corner to corner for the other one, because we're going to make another flying geese, but these ones are going to have these fabrics. So now that we know what we're doing and feel more comfortable with them, we're just going to breeze through them really quickly. And so what we did first, I'm going to just press this because it was a little iron. This is a 5.5 inch square, and that's going to be your F. And then you're going to use your G fabric, and then you're going to put them on the opposite. Just make sure you line them up nice and well. And I am placing, and I check something, making sure I'm good. It's gonna go a little bit over my lunch break, so I need to make sure that it's okay. And so I'm gonna just rotate it and pin. And right here, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna sew on each line a scant 1/4 inch. Sew. Just wanna make sure you guys see this exactly. And so I'm just showing, so I'm gonna sew at 1/4 of an inch as scant. I'm gonna turn it around and go to the other side. I'm removing this because we're gonna cut right on half of it. We have one more block to create, and then we're gonna put it all together. So these are just the flying geese. This one looks so cute. And another thing about these methods is that if you've never tried them before, it kind of gives you an opportunity to try something different. So I will place the following square like this, making sure that we bend so that anything doesn't move. So now we're gonna sew at a 1/4. Quarter of an inch, a scan, 1/4 of an inch. If you're chain piecing, cut this one and then piece the other one. If you have any questions, concerns, just let me know and I'll try to answer them. I'm just going to Now sew the other one at a scant 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And that's good. And we have conquered the 4 at a time flying geese method. So now what do? We just cut that on the line right there and cut it right here. And then now we're gonna press, and this is how it looks. So pretty. And then the next step will be to we are going to press them. How do I say this? We're going to press them and trim them to 4.5 by 2.5 inch. And then the diagram is gonna tell us to join the two flying geese like this in the center, and then it's gonna make this shape, and it's gonna look so cute. But we first have to press and then trim, and then we're going to press them together. We're gonna sew them, press them, and our last step is going to be to create a square in a square block. That's the center of the block of block number 1 of group 2 of the Moda Blockheads. So that's what we're doing. And that's what we're working on right now on block number 2. I already cut out block number 2, so we'll work on it next Monday. And I'm like truly super excited that I am getting to work with you and make these fun blocks. So I'm just trimming. So if you're working on with the creative grid rulers, what's super cool about them is that they have this 1/4 of an inch right there where they met. So that's what I'm actually doing. I'm just taking that and aligning my flying geese and just trimming. So to make sure that I don't lose my my seam allowance that I need, and I don't lose my points. And then I'll trim all of them that way. And then I figure the math. So once I trim the bottom part of it, because I make sure that I'm not losing, then I turn around the block, and then I'm gonna measure 2.5 from the bottom. So I line up the bottom and I trim 2.5. So now I know that I have the 2.5 height. But I first trim the bottom part with the Creative Grids rulers to make sure that I don't lose that point, because that's important while we're creating the blocks. Because even though if you're first starting, I love how Jenny Dawn always says, finish is better than perfect, but if you don't want to lose your points, that's a little trick that kind of like, this is why I use a lot of the creative rulers. They're just are designed so nicely. And then now what I do is that I measure 2.25. So what I do is that now I measure 2.25 from this point outwards and trim, and then 2¼ outwards and trim. And that's what I'm gonna do. So I do 2¼ and I press, I make sure that I'm doing my centers and I align. Make sure my block is nice and straight. And then I'll do the same using my center where they both meet. That's my center. And so that's kind of like how I figure out how to do the flying geese and make sure that I'm trimming them the correct measurement, and I assure that I'm not going to be losing any points throughout the process of sewing my blocks. So we got one more to trim. And Moda truly does an amazing job with their designers, with all of the graphics that they put in there. So now that we have 4 and 4, 2, 3, 4. Now that we have our 4 and 4, so now we're going to say that the D block is gonna come this way, and the F and G block is gonna come this way. And now we're gonna just sew them right sides together. And we are going to chain piece them together. And we're gonna sew them at 1/4 of an inch. Oh, I guess this one I did not trim properly. Make sure that it is trimmed. Yep, it wasn't trimmed. If you don't trimmed, it really makes a difference, because then your blocks don't line up properly. So now, once you trim them, they should line up. And so now we're just going to sew at 1/4 of an inch, one after the next. And make sure that you're sewing them together. Oh. I got unthreaded. Says like, why isn't sewing? I got unthreaded. Don't lick. I lick a lot, but you don't have to. It's a bad, bad habit. So we're gonna try this again. Something is happening with my upper thread. It's okay. Now we'll continue to sew this. All right. Now we just gotta work on our center and assembling, and then we are going to be almost done. Thank you for hanging in there with me while I slowly sew this vlog. But I think you're gonna like the results. And then it's just like scrappy and so cute. And this is our view. Look at how super cute. As you can see, we have our points. Very nicely, very nice. And there it is. So now we're just missing to create our middle. And what it says is that we grab the 4.5-inch square, and then we're gonna draw a line on the remainder squares. And we're just going to like draw a line diagonal corner to corner. And then what we're gonna do is that we're gonna take our squares and we are going to sew right on that line and then trim. And then we trim 1/4 inch. You can either save or toss it. That little piece is very tiny, so I don't know what you would like to do, but that's kind of like how it is. So then you're gonna press draw the square like so, and then you're gonna sew it right on that line. And once again, I got unthreaded. Thread it quickly. And then now I'm going to just sew that. Oh, and now I ran out of bobbin. Oh boy. Think I'm gonna find a machine with a bobbin. I got lucky. There we go. I had a brown bulb and I got lucky. Very good, and now we're gonna continue. Third time is the charm, isn't it? Alright. You got all sorts of threads in there. And then you're gonna cut that 1/4 in there, like so. And then you're going to just sew this and press. And repeat that on your other corners. We're in the home stretch, guys. In the home stretch. Thank you for being so patient. And last one. There we go. And this is our last. I'm just gonna spread a little bit. All right, so now we are going to place it. And so now we go the square in a square like this. And then we have one of the next block is gonna be the same fabrics touching because that's how I wanted it to be. That's how I'm making it. And then we have the other blocks on the corners. So we have one here, one here, one here, and one here. And then we're just going to attach like a 9 patch. And so I'm just, in here I am going to use a pen so that I keep everything together. And then I am lining up my points and I am going to pin. And then we line up the other point right here. And then we pin. And then you're gonna open and then join your other one, and you're going to look where your points are gonna match. And just pin. And then the other one. Oh. This one I attached incorrectly. Just make sure you pay attention. If you want your fabrics to touch, I made a mistake. A little bulk there. All right. So it's this way. Right. Then that is it. And then we're going to attach this one. Make sure it looks like this. And your upper row looks like that. And then we're making our lower row, which is the same. Very good. Make sure you got your points there. All right. And And then now we're going to join our rows. We're just gonna press, make sure everything is nice and flat. Pressing our seams open, make sure that we don't have a lot of bulk in our seams because there is a lot of joints on them and it can get really bulky. So as you can see, it could get really bulky. I did miss a point right here, but I'm not gonna worry about it because I am ruching, and so I lost my point right there. And now what we're gonna do is just join the centers. Make sure we have they line up. You just want to press a clip right there. And I'm just going to run it through. Okay. Very good. We didn't lose much points there. And now we're going to join the other one like this, making sure that all the colors that we want to joins together, which for me was the fabric with the anchors on it. I'm just pressing, making sure everything is nice and good. Double check that it joins this way. Very good. I'm making sure I have my joints there, right there. Okay, and this is our end of our Moda one block. And pressing open is definitely going to be key for everybody, please, because there is a lot of bulk on those seams. So if you're working on those blocks, make sure that you're pressing open because it's really going to help reduce that bulk. Trust me on that. And that's done. And I am pressing everything open. Make sure that it looks nice. and good. Oh, look at how pretty it looks. And this is my block. So I'm just going to make it a little wet because it does not want to stay flat so you guys can see it. So I'm just pressing it a little more. That is extremely cute. And now, yeah, it looks better. Look at how cute, how darling this is. And so this is in the back. So that concludes our first block for the Moda Block Challenge. It took us about 2 hours to get the block, but I just hope that you enjoyed it, and join me to do block number 2. So hope you have a wonderful afternoon and see you next week.